What's up, folks? Spiderfly back again on the World Wide Web. Nervous about this video for sure, because this is gonna be serious. Also, you might have noticed I'm actually at the right level this time. The last video was just like this kind of the whole time. Hopefully this stays consistent. Yeah, we finally made it to the fun chapter, the exciting chapter, section 5, Knock 'em Dead, which is the section on combat. Combat in Ghetto-Rats is very deadly, very tactical, and very crunchy. And so I thought about just recording a video breaking down like all the actions, all the different things. I didn't think it would really be that helpful. So instead, I'm just gonna run a combat today. I'm gonna set up the camera, I'm gonna get some minis that I stole from another game, and I'm just gonna go through a combat from start to finish, and hopefully you can kind of get a better idea. Combat is one of those things you definitely do have to kind of do your homework on. It is really the most rules heavy aspect of the entire game. Everything else is pretty flexible. Systems are really easy to rework, to expand on if you want more rules for them, or to strip them down if you want less. Combat, though, is very much its own thing. It can be super fun. It can be super all over the place and crazy and exciting. But when you're starting out the game, it can be a little intimidating. So I thought, if you've read it, there's certain things you're like, oh, I don't really get how that works, or how does that play out at the table versus, how is it, okay, it looks good on paper, maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense on paper. How does this actually play? So that's what I want to do today. We're gonna do like a little 40k in 40 minutes thing. My battle map we're gonna be using is paper. And we're just gonna kind of go from there. Hopefully this isn't totally incoherent. I've never attempted to do anything like this before, so we're gonna see how it goes. But we're gonna be bringing back, if you guys can remember, our good friend Ned Nebraska. We made him for the character creation video, and now we're going to be subjecting him to horrific trials, tribulations, and torture. He's gonna get maimed, he's gonna get mutilated, he might very easily die here. We're gonna see how it goes, but stay tuned!
The synthetic dusk settled quietly over the slums. That suited Ned Nebraska just fine. The gig seemed easy enough, quick courier job, no questions asked. Some local blade wanted to move a hard drive. It's just a few more blocks to the stash house. Ned would be 40 ghost coin richer.
Yeah, where do you think you're going, Scab?
A thin, creaky voice like a cellar door. Ned turned, saw the junk rat warming himself by a barrel fire in the alleyway. Faded jailbird ink and a lifetime of infected track marks. His pupils were like the points of dirty needles, his eyes bloodshot, his bony hands wrapped around the cracked handle of a sledgehammer. Yeah, we know you're holding something worth taking. Save us all the trouble and, hand it over here. A second voice, bored, tired. Ned turned his head slightly to see the man tailing him. A dirty hood pulled over an angular face, concealing streaks of shaggy blonde hair. He'd probably been handsome once, but time and drink had taken their toll on him. His mouth twists into a half smile, a sharp clicking sound as he produces a razor blade, running it along his cheek and cutting down a few stray hairs in the process. Ned twists the handle of his cane, the blade concealed inside glinting under the purple neon of the suicide lights. No use running now. Time to make a name or die trying.
Okay, so this is the setup. We're doing a bit of a questing beast thing here, bit of a SpongeBob disembodied hands. Hopefully I've inserted kind of the scene setting of what's going on, and hopefully you guys can kind of make out this map. I'm not very artistically gifted here. We've got our little shops, our burning car, our back alley, etc. But okay, so we've got this guy here. This guy here is going to be Ned. I might not have said that. This little blue office guy. These are our two assailants. Sometimes, if you want to have a little bit of fun, you can add NPCs, like just civilians and stuff, to the combat to add a bit of a collateral risk. That's not necessary. I'm not going to do that today. We've got a lot to cover. Sorry, tired, slightly hungover. I was clubbing all night because I'm super cool and awesome, and I have friends. Anyway, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to roll to see how many ghosts are nearby. This isn't really going to be that relevant for this fight because there aren't, at least not yet, any magic users or anything like that. But it's worth tracking because as people die during combat, especially if you're playing with the radiation sickness rules, which are in the expansion, Back Alleys and Black Markets, go pick it up now, things like how many ghosts are in the area kind of matter. So just for the sake of it, roll the 4. We'll put down 4 of these little tokens, just so you know that's how many ghosts. Oh yeah, I guess we wouldn't have done that video. Ghosts are kind of like the mana pool, I guess, is measured in irradiated undead spirits. But that's all going to be in the magic video. We don't really have to worry about it too much for this. Okay, so we're going to roll for everybody's drive. Drive is effectively, if you've played like kind of like JRPGs and stuff like that, you'll be familiar with the idea of like action points or AP. That's kind of what drive is. Drive represents your character's stamina, and it's your pool of how many actions you can take in combat. Different actions, different weapons cost different amounts of drive. So we're going to roll for each of our guys here. Eek, it is not looking good for Ned. So the enemies, Ned is up again. I'll be tracking all this stuff on my phone, because I didn't want to do it all in pen and paper. Sorry. It's easier this way. These assailants all have a +1 to their drive because of their speed. So this guy's got 6. This guy over here has 4. And Ned gets no bonus, so he's at 2. It is already looking very, very bad for Ned. He's outnumbered. He is significantly outdriven. And because these guys are initiating the combat, they get to go first. So Ned is in a very bad position, especially considering he is not a combat build. He's actually pretty terrible in combat. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles here. So they're going to start off their actions. Just check the audio quality. It sounds bad, but we're going to go anyway. So, since Ghetto Rats doesn't use an initiative system, it just trades back and forth each turn between the different groups. If you've got more than one group in a combat, so let's say maybe you had like animals running around on this too, it's kind of just by order of when did people enter the fight. So both of these guys get to go first. Either of them can go. They're going to decide what makes the most sense. So the best move to make is for this guy hopped up on Blitz to charge Ned Nebraska and try and stun lock him with a sledgehammer. So that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to move 1 meter. He's warming himself by a little barrel fire here, and he has to move around this big pile of trash. So he's going to move 1 meter over. Now they've got 1 meter separating, but he's got 1 meter of reach with his sledgehammer. So that is all well and good. He's going to roll to try and hit Ned, so it's an accuracy check on a d20. That is a 2, and that is very lucky for Ned. So the sledgehammer, considering it's a big, heavy weapon, takes 3 drive to swing. So this guy goes from 4 to 1, and now it's Ned's turn. So Ned has to figure out the best course of action for him. This guy could very easily stun lock him. He has very little drive. If he even gets grazed with that sledgehammer, he's out of commission, and this guy is in a position to just lay down a barrage of gunfire on him. At the same time, though, this guy only has 1 drive. He has 1 attack left. His weapon isn't particularly accurate. this guy, with all that drive and a gun, might be the bigger threat. Now, he's a bit out of range. I think the first thing Ned is going to do is he's going to take his stun gun. He's got a Dazer in his inventory. It only costs 1 drive to fire. It's a one-shot weapon, and it deals stun. So Ned is essentially going to weave that sledgehammer, pull out his stun gun, and he's going to try and shoot this guy to zap him. It's maybe not the best move, but eliminating this guy as a threat might just have to be something he does, so he's going to roll for it. That is a 5. It has a +2 on its accuracy, so a 7. A 7 is not quite enough. So we have just traded super boring combat to start with, to showcase. This guy misses with his sledgehammer. Ned misses with his stun gun. His stun gun is now depleted because it's only 1 capacity. So it's looking pretty rough already. Okay, so now it's back to the assailants. This guy could swing again, but he doesn't want to because he's going to want to save his drive either to make an attack at a more opportune moment or possibly to defend against more of Ned's attacks. So instead, our guy over here is going to draw his pistol, and he's going to try and shoot Ned. Ned's out in the open. With the rules we're running right now, Ned cannot take cover from a ranged attack because he's not in cover. He's out in the middle of the road. He was ambushed, right? So our friend over here is going to let off a shot with his Cobra, which is a cheap, pretty low-grade pistol, but for an early game weapon, it packs kind of a mean punch. It's going to fire, and a 4! -2 is a 2. That is a wide miss. A miss so bad, in fact, that if we were playing with civilians, we might have to roll to see how much damage he did to a bystander, but we're not doing that today. So far, that cost him 1 drive to do that. It's back to Ned's turn. This has been a really lucky so far for Ned. Even if he missed his attack, the fact that he hasn't been hit is really good. So what Ned is going to do, he needs to get towards cover so we can avoid this guy. He needs to put some distance between this guy with the sledgehammer and himself. He could fire an attack off, but that would leave him wide open to more damage. So what he's going to do is he's going to use an action called scrambling. As you can see, he only has 1 drive, and for every meter he moves, it costs him 1 drive. So he can't really get far away on his own, but if he scrambles, it costs 3 drive, and he rolls a d6 and moves that many meters. You're probably thinking, but Ned has 1 drive, and scrambling costs 3, so how can he do it? This is a mechanic called exhausting or bankrupting. All that it means is whenever you take an action that costs more drive than you have, you go to 0 drive and you lose 1 condition, which kind of just represents your character pushing their body a little bit further than, you know, their regular kind of faculties. But he's got adrenaline going, they're trying to kill him, he's got to move. So rolling a d6, that's the first good roll of this so far. Ned got a 5. So he's going to scramble 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 behind cover. He's going to duck behind this burning vehicle and try and put some distance between him and his assailants. So it's back to them. Ned is now out of drive. He cannot do anything else for the rest of this round. In Ghetto Rats, we call them acts. An act is just a round of combat. So they basically have free reign to do whatever they want. This guy is going to want to close distance with Ned, so he's also going to scramble. He's going to roll a 2. So he's going to move. He was here, so that's 2 meters. And he's going to want to stay out of this guy's kind of line of sight. He doesn't want to block that shot. He's going to lose a condition, and his condition is already low because he's been smoking Blitz, which isn't exactly great for his health. Excellent. Okay, so now it's just this guy. He has a lot of options of what he can do. None of them great. Oh, and Ned has actually done something kind of genius without even meaning to. He is exactly 11 meters away from this guy. A handgun has an effective range of 0 to 10 meters. So this guy, without risking being even less accurate than he already is, has to close that distance. So he's going to spend... The other thing, too, is he's going to want to stay in cover because Ned hasn't used it yet, but he also has a gun. So this guy, just to showcase it, he's going to move 1 meter into this puddle of water. It only costs 1 meter to move into difficult terrain, but it costs more drive to move through it. So 1 drive in, 2 drive to move through this puddle, and then another 2 drive to move out of it. So he spent all of his drive crossing a puddle. That isn't a good move. He probably shouldn't have done that, but just for the sake of showcasing terrain, that's what he did. So now that every single person in this combat has spent all their drive, no one else can do anything, this starts the next act. Now, during the intermission, this would be Ned's opportunity to flee. He's not going to do that yet because then the video would just end and this would be super boring. But in between acts is usually the time where you can roll for things like running away. What Ned is going to do is he's going to make a showdown. He's going to try and kind of use his high personality to intimidate or just kind of generally mentally overpower these guys so he can take the first turn. So that's going to cost him 1 renown. Just going to take that off of his character sheet. And he is rolling an opposed skill check, so he's rolling with his personality to beat these guys. In this case, they're going to use grit because they have quite a bit of it. So however you want to say he's doing this, you know, he's showing the guys down, you don't know who you're messing with, whatever the case may be. Ned has rolled a 12. And unfortunately for him, these guys have a +3. They've rolled a 13. So just barely, they're going to keep their first turn advantage. So now the act starts. We're rolling drive. Okay, a little bit better for Ned. This guy's at 2. And this guy is at 7 drive. Oh, and I completely forgot because I'm dumb. This guy should have even more drive because he's on blitz. So he actually gets an extra d6. So this guy actually has 11 drive. I'm doing a tutorial on a game I wrote, and I'm already messing it up. Which actually is kind of a good segue. You have a lot of things to track, specifically in combats in this game. That's fine. I like it that way. But like moments like this, you're going to have a lot of moments where you forgot a very, very important rule, maybe an ability, or the fact that this guy rolls 2d6 drive because he's on blitz. It could be anything. If you forgot something, you forgot it. It's done. I've had it a lot of times where people have been like, oh, I forgot I had a soft armor. My character shouldn't have died there. Or moments like that where, oh, this guy should have got way more actions he could have taken because he should have had another d6. In situations like that, it is your responsibility to track your own character's abilities. If you forget, that's unfortunate. You forgot. The Zone Master might be merciful and kind of give you a little bit of leeway on those kinds of things, but in this situation, I'm not going to retroactively say, oh, he should get extra turns or anything like that. I forgot, that was on me. The combat moves on. There's a lot of things to track. If you don't remember to track them, that's absolutely fine. You can kind of just think of it as a part of the game, or at least I try to. So they get first turn. This guy is going to have to try and stun lock Ned. So that's what he's going to do. He's going to move up 2 meters. So he's 1 meter away. He's going to spend 3 drive to swing that big mighty sledgehammer again. And that is going to hit on a 14. So now Ned has a difficult decision to make. Before he makes it, though, he's going to want to see how much damage is coming his way. So a sledgehammer does d20 damage. It's got a +2 because this guy has 2 points of weapons handling. And the sledgehammer is unique because it also does 1d6 of stun. What is stun? We're getting into that right now. So rolling damage, that is going to be 13 damage to Ned and 1 stun. What stun is it is a subtraction from your pool of drive. So if this hit, even though Ned has not spent any drive, he would lose 1 from being essentially like the wind knocked out of him, concussed, stunned. It doesn't immediately knock him unconscious or take him out of the fight, but it reduces his kind of action pool and limits his options. Stun is a really, really good thing to run because it forces your opponents to make pretty difficult choices. So what Ned could do is he could try to dodge this incoming attack. That would be a skill check, and if he failed, it would be quite bad. Since this is 13 damage, this will do a trauma, which is going to injure Ned. The other option he has would be to defend against it, where he would just spend 2 drive. Dodging would cost him 1 drive, but it's a skill check. Defending costs 2 drive, and he just takes half damage. But that isn't the right move in this case, because he's going to take the stun regardless. Stun doesn't get reduced by defending or anything. So what Ned is going to use is he's actually going to play a Zeal. This is a 6. He's going to play that 6, and what a 6 does is it gives him a free dodge. So this just kind of gives him the chance to maybe get out of this. The other thing is Ned has 2 reflexes. So this attack actually hit on a 13. So he only has to beat a 13 to avoid it. And it doesn't cost him any drive because he played a card. That's a 14. So Ned has narrowly evaded that sledgehammer that was going to shatter his whole ribcage. Super fortunate for Ned, and he hasn't spent any drive doing it. Okay, so now it's Ned's turn. He has to decide what makes sense for him to do. What he's going to do is he's going to move 1 meter to get himself out of the range of that guy and to securely put himself behind cover from this guy here. The next thing Ned is going to do is he's going to shoot the guy with the sledgehammer with a revolver. Ned's got a Sword Sundance Special, kind of a Wild West cattleman revolver type thing. Costs 2 drive to shoot it because it's a revolver. He is rolling on his d20 to attack, and that's a 12. So these guys here each have 4 reflexes. So this only hits on a 10. But it doesn't matter. Since it's a ranged attack and this guy's outside of cover, he can't dodge it. In the core rules, I think it allows for you to dodge outside of cover and stuff like that. It's kind of up to you and your table what makes the most sense, if you think that's fun or not. I personally kind of like how threatening the guns can be in this game if you can't just dodge and evade them. So this guy has nothing he can do as far as dodging. Ned is going to deal 4 damage, which is unfortunate. Just a bit of a graze against that enemy. So he takes 1 shot, lowers his ammo by 1. If you count ammo, which I guess you probably should. And that's going to be 4 damage to that assailant. Now, that assailant could choose to defend, regardless of whether it's a ranged attack or not. You can defend incoming damage, but since it's only 4, it's not really worth them spending 2 drive to do that. So it's back to their turn. This guy here is going to fire a shot off on Ned. He's now within range. So that's going to cost him 1 drive. He's going to send a bullet Ned's way. And that is a 1 in total. I think it's actually lower with the reflexes. That was like a 0 to hit. So a wide miss. This guy trips as he's running through the puddle. The shot goes wide, smashes a window. Back to Ned. Ned isn't too concerned about this guy. With only one drive, that's one shot. He's behind cover. What Ned really, really needs to do is put this guy down. Because he's got 6 drive. That's like 2 swings with that big hammer. He's right up on him. The one advantage, though, is since this guy is on blitz, he's got half of his max health. So Ned realistically could put him down with the revolver. And that's what he's going to try and do. So, 2 drive, rolling a d20 to hit. Ned's rolling with a total of a +1. That is a 20. Now, normally that would be a critical strike, but because this guy has 4 reflexes, that 20 only hits on an 18. Still, very fortunate. So Ned's going to roll for damage. 16 damage +2 from the revolver's base +2 damage. That is 18 damage. Now, this guy cannot dodge that, and 18 damage will be enough to drop him. So what he's going to do is he's going to spend 2 drive to defend. That 18 becomes 9 damage. And that is just enough for him to stay alive and just enough for him to not take any trauma. So he's going to get shot in the stomach. He's feeling it. All the stimulants, there's blood pouring. Maybe he doesn't really feel it, but the effects are noticeable. But that leaves Ned with no drive. When you're up against multiple opponents, not having drive is not really something you want to be dealing with, because now Ned can't dodge, even though he's behind cover. He can't defend against any shots coming his way, and he's kind of at the mercy of this guy right now. The one good thing, though, is this guy, to be in range, has to move 1 meter, which means he only gets 1 attack. 1 drive to move, 3 to swing, and that's a 4, so this guy's gonna miss Ned yet again. Ned miraculously has been untouched. This has gone way better for him than I thought it would. Last drive, this guy's going to take a shot on Ned yet again. That is a 10, -2 from the pistol, and -1 from Ned's reflexes is a 7. A 7 does not hit. Ned's on fire right now. This is going so well for him. So again, Ned could take the opportunity to flee. It's up to you if you can do how you want to run showdowns mid-combat. I usually just allow it like once, just kind of for flavor or when it's cool or relevant. I'm not going to allow it any more times. We're just going to leave this as it is. So rolling drive. Okay, so this guy is at 8 drive, because he's rolling 2d6 and he has a +1 from his speed. This guy is at 3, and Ned is at 6, because he just can do no wrong. Unfortunately for him, Sledgehammer Guy is going to try and stunlock Ned as best he can, because if he can do that, he can potentially end the fight. That's a 2. I don't know if I've rolled this many failures ever for a combat, but it's going great for Ned. That is a wide miss. Back to Ned. Ned is gonna do Ned really needs this guy to go down. He's a very serious threat. He's very dangerous. It probably doesn't seem that dangerous because he hasn't been able to hit anything for the entire combat, but he is. He's the most immediate threat. He's got a bunch of attacks coming his way. So Ned is going to take the cane he's been holding this whole time. He's going to draw his cane sword, and he's going to try and put this guy down. Because he has high personality, he's a little bit more accurate with the cane sword than he is with his gun. This guy can dodge it, but we'll get into that in a second. The one thing to remember, though, is since Ned has Pathetic Fighter, he does have a -1 to what would otherwise be a +3 to hit. But still, The cane sword is an AS 1+1 weapon. What does that mean? It means at the cost of 2 drive, 1+1, Ned can make 2 attacks in the same turn. So this is going to take him from 6 to 4, and he gets 2 attacks on this guy with the cane sword. That is a 16 and a 20 respectively. After this guy's reflexes, that is an 18 and a 14, so no crits, but those both hit. And it will be, regardless of what he rolls, enough damage to put this guy down. This guy cannot defend against these incoming attacks because he doesn't have enough blood, so he has to try and dodge. The one trade-off with AS 1+1 weapons is defending or dodging. You only do that, like you do it against both of them at the same cost. So he's rolling to dodge, rolling his speed, because that's what he has. And he has to beat both a 14 and an 18 to pull this off. It is not looking good for him. So he's rolling with... Oh, he doesn't have any speed. Their bonus to their drive is from their cyber legs. I forgot about that. Not really cyber legs, they're actually scrap, like uneven pig legs, but you get the idea. That is a 12 plus nothing is not enough to dodge. So Ned hits both these attacks for a total of 1 and 9 damage. And that's enough to take this guy out of the action. Way to go, Ned. Absolute legend. We're going to quickly roll this character's cheat death. I roll enemy NPC cheat deaths for 2 reasons. Well, for a lot of reasons. One, because it's good to track how many ghosts. If you got a wizard or if you're worried about radiation sickness or something like that, it's worth tracking. Well, you have to track it. The other thing is that I find in stories, this is just a full side tangent pet peeve of mine, when characters are able to kill like a ludicrous amount of people. You know, you're playing Arthur Morgan running around, you're like, oh, you know, I got tuberculosis, I'm I don't know, Dutch, I kind of want to be a better person. Meanwhile, he's killed 700 people in gunfights across, like, Montana, or wherever the game is set. I find it kind of pulls me, I find it hard to get immersed, I guess. The last thing is that if this guy dies here, then, you know, that's a shame for faceless, grifter number 2. But if he survives... Now you have kind of an interesting situation, because the thing with the zone, it's not like there's some bandit camp off in the woods somewhere where you're fighting their bandits and, you know, it's only when you're passing through the region. Odds are that Ned and this guy, even though they might not know each other, live in the same community, or at the very least in the same city, so there's a chance of Ned running into this guy again. And how's that going to go down? But Ned doesn't have to worry about that, because this guy rolled a 5 for his cheat death, minus nothing, because somehow he took no trauma, and plus nothing, because he's got no personality. So this guy is dead. Ned stabs him through the heart with a well-placed blow from his cane sword. He tries to dodge, he fails. We add another ghost, and Ned is up on the score, on the scoreboards. This guy is gonna probably take some stress. If you want to run stress in combat, it can be good. I guess I'll do it just for the sake of it. You really don't have to if you find it's just too much to track. I totally respect that. He's gonna take 2 stress because he just watched his friend get gunned down. Now he's gonna try and shoot Ned. What he's gonna try and do, because he's really angry, is he's going to go for a Fatal Strike. A Fatal Strike costs double the amount of drive your attack would normally cost, so in this case 2, and it gives you a resistance die on your accuracy check. But if you hit it, you can either ignore your opponent's armor entirely, which is good if you're up against like people in exosuits or like mechs or full plate mail and stuff like that, or you can just do double damage. So that's what he's going to try and do. Well, there goes my die. Okay, picked my die up. Okay, so that is an 11, minus 2 from the gun is a 9, minus 4 is a 5. Kind of a waste of drive. Didn't work out. He goes to shoot Ned in the head. Ned ducks down behind the burning vehicle. The flames obscure his vision. The shot goes wide. It's back to Ned's turn. He is in a great position. He is going to fire on his opponent, who is out in the open with the revolver. A 2. He misses. Not a critical failure. The shot goes wide. Now it's this guy's turn again. He should probably scramble to try and either take cover behind the same car or in this alleyway. But he's angry, so he's just going to shoot at Ned. Ned somehow hasn't been touched at all, and the streak continues. Take a shot every time I roll a 4. Are you guys seeing this? Ned is laughing right now, like a maniac. How many shots has this guy taken? 4? I'm gonna say 4 shots. I'm not that religious about ammo tracking. Side tangent. Ammo tracking is the worst. I've yet to come up with a better system because of how crunchy this game is. I know Cyborg, you just roll at the end of each combat to see if you burn through all your ammo, but I don't find that as fun because then your capacity doesn't matter as much. And then it's also like, you never run the risk of running out of ammo mid-combat, but it's tedious. You just gotta, it's what you sign up for. So don't waste too many brain cells thinking about it too hard. Ned's taking a shot. Last of his drive, firing on this guy. Now the great thing here, even if this guy did have drive, he couldn't dodge. But since he has none, he can't defend or anything. So let's hope Ned hits. He does on a 19. Minus 2 from that guy's reflexes is a 17. That's a solid hit for 12 damage. And that's enough to do a trauma. So I'm gonna sometimes add little trauma tokens just so people remember to subtract from their skill checks. So that is 12 damage. 1 trauma. And he's taken some stress because he watched his friend go down. So that shot, center mass, injures him. Maybe it punctures a lung. Maybe it puts a hole in his hand. Maybe he gets hit in the shin. Who knows? He's feeling that shot. It hurt him. And it is a new round. Now, here you might roll to see if this guy flees, because he's just watched his friend get killed. He's out in the open. He's burned through a lot of his ammo. He's in difficult terrain. This guy's behind cover shooting him. It would be the good thing to do for him to run away. He's not going to do that because I want to play out this whole combat for you guys at home. But this is also situations where you could roll a skill check. Maybe roll grit to see, is this guy tough enough to stay or is he going to run? I do that a lot in my games. Don't make your enemies fight to the death every single time. I say as I do exactly that. So rolling drive. All right, this guy has 4. Ned is at 2. This guy goes first. So Ned's at a bit of a disadvantage, but he still has really good positioning and he's hurt this guy already. He could move into cover, but I don't think that's his style. His best move would be to move 3 meters, scramble, so he would move 3 meters, bankrupt to scramble, because you can move and then scramble, and then hide in this alleyway where he's out of sight of Ned, and it would force Ned to come reposition to fire on him and waste his turn. But he's not going to do that because that would be boring. So he's going to move up 1 meter, and then he's going to shoot at Ned, just running up in the rain, crying, angry, firing. That is actually going to hit Ned on a 10. Oh, no, it doesn't. So this guy rolled a 13. His gun is a -2 to shooting. So that is an 11. Yeah, an 11. Sorry, hungover, like I said. -1, because he took a trauma, is at 10. And Ned has 2 reflexes, which makes that a 9. So it's going to whistle past Ned's head, but he avoids that. Ned should probably hold on to his drive to defend, but he's feeling pretty cocky, so he's going to let another shot off with his revolver. Another 4! A miss, a big miss, and now Ned is in danger. How many shots has Ned taken? Like, I'm gonna say that was probably his 5th one. Feel free to comment. You would probably be making the first comment on my YouTube channel if you told me I did my math wrong. Okay, this guy is going to take one more shot. That is also gonna miss. He is not having good luck, but to be fair, the Cobra is not a good gun. And then he's gonna use his last drive to scramble 2 meters. So he's gonna move 2 meters closer to that cover. And that is that act of combat. Over and done with. Okay, rolling drive again. 5 and 5, evenly matched. So you can kind of see one thing with the drive system that's kind of interesting is the threat is constantly changing. It's not like with initiative where you're locked into a turn order, and it's also not like initiative where numbers, like out if you're doing a boss fight where it's 1 versus like 5, it's just immediately super kind of unbalanced where you miss an attack and then, you know, now you're just sitting there on your phone for 20 minutes waiting for everyone to go in a circle. It's constantly back and forth. And even if your character is down or out of drive, there's enough tactical stuff you can be doing that it's worth everyone kind of sitting around chiming in, watching, oh, that guy's, if you make this attack, it forces him to dodge, which means he's out of drive, which leaves you open to do this and that and that. This is a really scaled down, this is actually a really simple combat, what I'm running. There's no hackers, there's no magic, there's no monsters, there's no really anything all that insane going on. This is just a pretty basic one. But even now you're seeing kind of the level of strategy you can do. Even if it's pretty straightforward on the surface, there's a lot of advanced stuff you can do if you want to, and only gets more like that the more people involved in combat. The other fun thing as a side note is even if you have a player whose character isn't there, you can just have them running like an NPC, or if, you know, your party's all collaborating, like you can have 5 players kind of playing 3 characters together. Some people might not like that. They might not enjoy other people kind of chiming in on what they should do on their turn. But that's kind of the other thing about this, is it plays almost kind of like XCOM or something like that, where it doesn't really matter how many players are at the table. You can just be all deciding together what the right moves are. So this guy gets first turn. He's going to move into cover. So now they're both hiding, shooting through a burning car at each other. And he has 1 shot left. So he's going to try and make it count by going for another fatal strike. And that is like a catastrophic miss. No shot, and his gun is now empty. This guy's having a terrible day. His friend just got murdered right in front of him with a cane sword. They haven't even put a scratch on Ned. And Ned is also on his last shot. He is also going to shoot back. And another 4. Ned does not hit. I'm going to have to, like, title this video Battle of the Fours, because holy. This guy's going to hold on to his drive. So what does that mean? It means he's going to willfully skip his turn. And why would you do that? Well, the number 1 is in case, if he does anything, if he scrambles, if he moves, if he reloads his weapon, he's a sitting duck. Ned could just shoot him repeatedly. he might not know that Ned's out of ammo, for example. Ned could close the distance and hit him with a sword. There's a lot of things that could go bad. So he's just going to sit and wait before he makes another action. Normally, if both parties just both skip back to back, it's treated as the combat ending. So since Ned wants to stay in this combat, since we want it to stay, Ned can't skip his turn either. He can't skip his turn now, because then, you know, you get people just sitting, trade back and forth, skip, skip, skip. That's not fun. What Ned is going to do is a bit risky. He's going to reload his revolver. Now, reloading a weapon, no matter what it is, costs 3 drive. So he's going to spend all his drive to top up that revolver. And this guy, seeing that Ned is now out of drive, is going to move 1 meter and then scramble. That's another 2 meters. He may be out of ammo in his gun, but he still has another trick up his sleeve. So he loses a condition. His gun is empty. And we're ready for the next act. I think this could be the last one. The big climactic finish. 3 and 4. So what this guy is going to do... Where's Ned? He's on this tile. He's going to move 1, 2 meters to close distance. He is now right next to Ned Nebraska. And he's going to pull out his Zoner's straight razor. And he's going to try and cut our good friend Ned with it. He's rolling flat, so he's got no penalties except for his trauma, and that is a 19. A -1 from trauma is an 18, -1 from Ned's reflexes is a 17, but that is still an accurate hit. Now, the razor is unique because it doesn't just do normal damage, it does bleed damage. So this is going to be 7 bleed, which is rough. Ned probably can't dodge a 17 because he doesn't have any stats that would let him dodge. He doesn't have any speed, he doesn't have any muscle. His reflexes makes it a little easier, but he's probably not making that skill check. So instead he's going to spend 2 drive and defend, which means he only takes 4 bleed. But that still eats into his drive. And now he has that bleed to contend with. So how does bleed work? Bleed, poison, acid, cosmetically, they might appear different, but they all fall into the same category of what is called drain damage. What drain damage is an amount of damage that is dealt every time you spend drive for the rest of the act or round of combat. So in this case, it's not so bad. Ned doesn't have a whole lot of drive to spend, but he also can't pass up on that opportunity. So what he's going to do is he's going to use his cane sword, because this guy can't dodge anyway and it's more accurate, to make 2 attacks. And because he has spent drive, he's going to take 4 bleed again. So he took 4 damage from the attack, he's taken another 4 damage because he has a bleed on him and he's taking an action. But now that he's out of drive, it's going to go away. There are items, too, where you can get rid of it on the fly, but usually it kind of just paralyzes you a bit for 1 turn. So he's making 2 attacks with the cane sword, blood shooting out from his artery as he tries to finish off this fight. That is 1 hit and 1 miss. And that guy can't do anything about it. This thing does D10 damage. I think that's... I couldn't tell what that result was. There we go. 9 damage. And he doesn't do any extra damage because he has no weapons handling. So, unfortunately, no trauma. But yeah, he gets that guy good. That is, the fight's not over yet, though. 1 and 1. Okay. This guy's going on Ned again with the razor blade. Ned's in a pretty dangerous position, actually. And that is another 19. So that's another solid hit for 8 bleed. Yee, that is really bad. Ned could bankrupt to defend that, and then he's a sitting duck. But with that much bleed, he can't really do anything, and he can't really risk dodging it, because that's quite a bit of damage, even ignoring the fact that it's bleed. His bleed from the previous act is done, so that doesn't matter, but bleed does still apply if you're dodging or defending. It's any time you spend drive. Doesn't matter how much drive you spend, you just take one. Well, you just take the amount of damage once. So he's, every time you do it. This is where you should read the rules, is because I'm stumbling over my words trying to explain them and probably just making it more confusing than helpful. Yeah, so what Ned's going to do is he's going to have to bankrupt to defend. So it's going to cost him another condition. So he's getting pretty tired, pretty sore. He's pushing himself quite a bit. And he's going to take half that. So it's going to be 4 more bleed. You don't have to worry about it being bleed, though, because he is out of drive anyway. So it's really just 4 damage. And this guy's going to swing on him with the razor blade again. He's doing way better with the razor than he was with that gun. That is a 6, so that is not going to hit. And we're still going. We're still going. At any point now, it would be reasonable for either of them to flee. This guy probably wouldn't, because he kind of has an advantage right now. But we're not doing that. We're fighting this out to the bitter end. Risky business. He's swinging the razor blade again, and what he's going to do is he's going to spend an extra drive to aim. So when you do a precise strike, you spend extra drive, and for every point you spend, you get a +1 to your accuracy check. So he's going to do that to cancel out his trauma. A 7. So despite his best efforts, a 7 is still a miss. Now, because the Zone Master gets 1 zeal for every player at the table if you're playing with cards, the Zone Master here, and he's controlling these characters, is going to spend a card on that guy's check. I just spent an ace, so he gets to re-roll that attack. Yee. And that is a 9. So again, not quite enough. Ned's lucky day. Ned's going to use the cane sword again because he needs an attack to hit, and 2 attacks is better than 1. That is a nat 20 and a 15, so that is a 22 and a 17. Minus that guy's reflexes, it's a 20 and a 15. So that is still a crit. And this guy physically can't dodge a 20. If you rolled a 20 to match, you would get a reroll, but even then he has trauma. So regardless, there's nothing he can do about that. Both attacks are going to hit. We're going to use this die as the one that, this one for here, my infinite pile of dice, and this one will be the one that crits. So that is 2 damage and 3 damage. But because this was a critical strike, even though it only does 3 damage, it still does a trauma. So maybe Ned nicks him in the eye or something. There isn't really a point in the other guy defending it. So he's just going to take the 5 damage and the 1 trauma, because even if he defended, he would still take a trauma, and he can't dodge it. And it's not quite enough damage to spend all his drive, so he's just going to eat both those attacks for breakfast. And he's swinging the razor again, desperately trying to take care of Ned. That is a 15 minus 2 from trauma is a 13, so that hits Ned on a 12 for 7 bleed. Ned is going to spend a drive to try and dodge. Has to beat a 12. He does with flying colors, an 18, so he weaves the razor. This guy has 1 drive left. He's going to try and hit Ned with the razor again, and he's going to miss. It's ramping up. New act. 2 and 4. Razor blade again. And see, this is where bleed is really good. Ned has the advantage in drive, so if he can get a bleed off right away, then Ned is really limited in what he can do without taking more damage. That hits on an 18 minus 3 if you count Ned's reflexes, so a 15. Still a pretty good hit for 8 bleed. Scary, scary stuff. Ned is going to have to defend that. So 4 bleed, 2 of his drive. It is pretty scary. Ned is taking quite a bit of damage. And what Ned is going to do is he's going to try and finish the fight right here. On one hand, he can't afford to miss, so the cane sword might be his best bet. But the cane sword doesn't do a lot of damage. Ned is going to take a risk. This isn't a good risk, but he's going to do it anyway. He's going to go for a Fatal Strike. Now, with an AS1+1 weapon, if you do a Fatal Strike, you still only get 1 attack. Only costs 2 drive. The trick with the cane sword is it does triple damage instead of double if he hits on a Fatal Strike. So he's going to spend both his drive. Rolling with a resistance die. He's rolling a +2 total. He's going to take 4 more damage because he has a bleed on him. So that's going to hurt. And he's going for triple damage on this guy. Eesh. So that is in total a 4, minus 2 is a 2, a 0. That's unlucky for Ned. This guy gets another attack with his last drive. That is high. It hits. Ned can't dodge anyway. Another 7 bleed. So now we are in a really scary spot. Ned has 3 blood left. This other opponent has 4. So they are both on death's door. This is a part probably where Ned should run. But Ned's not gonna run. Because we gotta finish the video. Rolling drive. Climactic finish. Ned's got 5 drive. This guy has 7. And his best bet is just to keep swinging on Ned. He has 7 attacks, potentially, with the Razor Blade, because it only costs 1 drive per, and it doesn't have any ammo. A miss. Ned has to hit this attack, or he's probably going to die. So he's going to use the cane sword for 2 attacks. Just hoping to hit once. And he does. 1 attack hits on a 10 total. He's got a +2, so that's 12. Minus 2 from this guy's reflexes is a 10. It's going to hit for 1 damage. Bro. Okay. 1 damage isn't quite enough to kill the other guy, so now they have 3 blood each. And this guy's not going to waste drive defending it, because it's only 1 damage. So now he's going to swing his Razor Blade. Another 19 hits on, like, I think a 16 total. And that's for 5 bleed. Now, if Ned defended, that would be 3 bleed, which is still enough to drop him. So he has to go for the dodge. Ned is rolling with +0 to beat a 16, and his life is on the line. And he rolled a 16 exactly. So what happens here is, since they tied, they re-roll. This guy, remember, is rolling with a -2 from trauma and as a -1 to hit Ned because of his reflexes. Ned is just rolling flat. And Ned weaves. A 9 beats, I think that's a 5. Oh! That was a close call. That was definitely going to kill Ned if it hit. But Ned is still in the game. And normally, it wouldn't be a bad idea to play it safe, hold on to his drive, save it for dodging, but this guy has so many attacks it doesn't matter, so Ned has to take him out of the fight. He's using the cane sword again because 2 attacks is better than 1. And those are both 21s, so they both hit on a 19. So 19 and 19 for hunting for my D10s. There we go. 6 and 8 is 14 total damage. That's enough to kill this guy. He can't defend it because he doesn't have enough blood, so he has to dodge. He has to beat a 19, and he does not. So those attacks go through. This guy is downed. He's going to roll his cheat death. He does not make it. So Ned ends the fight off bloodied with 3 blood, covered in cuts from a razor blade, narrowly avoided getting shot in the face and having his ribcage crushed by a sledgehammer, standing in the street surrounded by these 2 bodies. The ghosts are going to go up to 6. So Ned is actually, because the ghosts are up to 6, he takes 1 stress because he gets to the first stage of radiation poisoning. Not that that really matters. And now would also be a good time to roll a grit check for Ned, which he has none. He fails, so now Ned has just killed 2 people in the street. So I'm going to give him 3 stress. He was defending himself, so I'm not going to give him too much. These guys weren't exactly innocent. They followed him and tried to kill him, but it's still gone away on him. So Ned's at 4 stress. He's a bit irradiated. He's standing in the street in a public place with 2 corpses near him. A bunch of shots have gone off. We're going to say the name of this map is Slums, so the order probably isn't very high, but we're going to roll to see if Metsec shows up. No 6s, the cops aren't coming. So Ned is just going to limp his way off to go see his doctor, and the corpse cleaners are going to find these guys when it's convenient, scrap them for parts, and torch them. Scatter their dust like snow over the zone. Just another combat. Ended really well for Ned. Ned is not a combat build. That went super, super well. I thought for sure he was going to die in that combat. And he almost did. Okay, so now we're just going to do a quick little debrief. Wow, that was close. That was a close call. So you can kind of see a lot of things already about the combat system. 1, because your actions aren't divided into like bonus actions, full action, movement action, it gives you a lot of freedom for the kind of strategies you can employ. You're never really boxed in of like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. Because even if you don't have enough drive, you can still exhaust yourself to push yourself far enough to do it. You have a lot of options at your disposal. I have a whole list here of different, combat actions you can take, different attack types, different, defense tactics, and stuff like that, movement types. There are also so many weapons in the game, and one thing you're going to notice is no one had to take a turn to swap weapons. It didn't cost any drive to switch between weapons. So it allows you to do kind of, I don't know, I enjoy that aspect of the game, is you can have a guy running around with a pistol and a razor blade, and he's just shooting at this guy, swinging at that guy, shooting again. It allows you a lot of kind of just options. You have so many options. And while there is a lot of stuff to track, it kind of adds together to create really interesting situations. It's like a puzzle every single turn that you're trying to solve. We played with an actual map, which I hand drew. As you can clearly tell, the minis also were not to the scale of these maps, but it is what it is. You don't have to do that. It can be a little tricky with how big a part of a lot of the combat, like distances are and stuff like that, and like cover and things like that, but it's pretty easy to hand wave. There isn't currently a system for like, I know abstracted distances are like really big in TTRPGs right now, like near, far, very far, stuff like that. I don't have an exact system for it. You can kind of use the ranges for ranged weapons and stuff like that. There's some workarounds in the rules for it, and it's pretty easy to hand wave. I think I will at some point do an actual proper written out rules as written way of running that, but just hand wave it. Like, don't exhaust yourself. There's a lot of moving parts in combat, and just take on the ones you think are worth taking on. If you don't want to track the ghosts, you should, because that's the basis of the whole magic system, but don't worry about it that much. If you don't want to roll cheat, if you want to wait till the end of the combat to roll the cheat deaths, do that. If you want to do stress at the end of the session, do that. If you don't want to think that hard about ammo and you're just like, I think the guy shot 11 times, so he's at this much ammo, just do that. Don't sprain your brain trying to fit all the details in. If you forget about an ability, in the tutorial video of how to run the combat, I forgot a very important ability. That's going to happen. Don't worry about it too much. Could that have changed the course of the entire combat? Probably, but who cares? Because at the end of the day, the combat we got, even with forgetting and the minis being not quite right, and, you know, a bunch of misses. How many times did I roll 4? Comment below. We still got an interesting engagement, and had I actually been spending more time narrating it like I would at the table, it was pretty tense. We really didn't know if Ned was going to make it out of that one. He was disadvantaged from the start. He had some okay equipment. He was definitely better equipped than his enemies, which you're going to see in this game. Equipment plays a huge role in how you're going to do in things like combat. Like, level is a big part of it, but combat, gear is a much bigger part of combat. Once you get to like Q5 weapons, it gets like ridiculous. And Q6 and Q7, I honestly don't even really use at my tables because they're so overpowered. But you know, they're kind of fun to have in the game. But yeah, the last thing I really want to focus on, I kind of mentioned it during it, is with this system, you never have to sit there really just like, okay, when's my turn going to be? And I saw someone mention that for Daggerheart when they were talking about Daggerheart's system, because they have a kind of similar system for initiative where there is no initiative tracker, and your party kind of determines who goes in what order. And someone was saying as a criticism, like for more soft-spoken players, people that are maybe a bit shy or that don't know the group as well, it can be kind of hard to assert themselves. But this system actually kind of counters that in two ways. One, if the whole party is active in what's going on and is paying attention to the combat, and they should be because it could be your turn at any moment. Your turn could be just around the corner constantly because it's back, forth. They're usually going to be strategizing together like, okay, I'm over here with the sniper rifle. I could take a shot on that guy because he has a lot of drive. He's looking really scary, but he's out in the open, so I could take him out. And the other guy's going to go, yeah, but I'm in position with this club, and I could stun lock this guy. And it allows you guys to really come together and be like, what's the right move? What should we do? But and so the positive of that is people might tell you should go next because you're actually in the best position to make these moves right now. You're in a great position. You have a bunch of drive. You should take your turn right now. And then they're going to go, oh, what should I do? And they're like, oh, do this, pull up the whatever. Which is kind of like Zombicide a bit in that way. I was using Zombicide minis, and I found Zombicide played the same way of like, even if it was your turn, it was really the group's turn. You're like, I'm controlling this character, but the group would be like, okay, well, this is objectively what you should do and what you're going to do, because if you don't do this movement, you're, sabotaging the whole game. But the other thing is, even if you don't do anything, if you're feeling shy and you don't know how to bump in, and you're just sitting there watching the combat, like, oh wow, these guys really know what they're doing. Oh wow, there's so many. Wow, how many times has he rolled a 4? That's crazy. But then what happens is every single person uses all their drive, and you go to move on to the next act, and then that one person goes, oh, I actually never went. And everyone looks and they go, you have 7 drive. Every single person has taken their turn. Now you just get to make like 7 attacks. Like, you just run the combat now. So even if you wait until the very end of the turn order, like, there is no reality where you don't get a turn, right? And so even if you don't get to go right away, or even if you get talked over a little bit, or you're like, I really think I should do this, and the party's like, yeah, but no, we're going to do this. It can actually be a valid strategy to just save your drive and wait, and then once, you have plenty of drive to spend defending, dodging, whatever, which you don't have to spend a turn to do. You can do it every time an attack's made against you, right? But then at the very end of it, you can just do an explosive, unstoppable tirade of attacks, or you can just move all over the place, or you can run up and heal people. Like, there's a ton of different options, whether you spend all your drive at the beginning, you spend all your drive defending, you hoard your drive till the end of the act, and then do a bunch of things. There's always more strategies, more crunchy little things you can do. And the last thing about it is, like, who the big threat is. Who is the scariest guy on the board is also changing every single act. In the rules, it says that you can have a set drive thing. If you don't want to roll for drive every single act, you just want to have it where everyone has the same drive every act, you can do that. But it kind of defeats the purpose, which is, like, sometimes the combat character who's super overpowered just rolls a 1. And the guy who is not a combat character rolls like a 7. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're not the combat guy, but this whole battle is in your hands now, so you gotta make this work. And it kind of changes up the dynamics and forces you to constantly be... Sorry, I kicked the camera stand. It forces you to constantly be reevaluating and changing your approach and changing your strategy non-stop. There's so many extra little mutators if you include the magic system, hacking, combat medics, grenades, things like that, bigger firepower, more waves of enemies, additional parties like, the police showing up in the middle of a gunfight, so you're dealing with the enemies, and then also there's cops swarming, or in the feedlands, maybe your shots attract a bunch of monsters or mutants and stuff, and now you're fighting them. There's so many levels to it, but at its core, you roll, that's how many action points you have, and then you spend them as you see fit. It's a resource that you're constantly, refilling and getting rid of. And because of the turn order, like, boss fights get so much easier because, numbers are good because you just have more drive than the other party, right? So there's probably going to be a period where you just get a bunch of free attacks because you outnumber the person. They can't counter all of you at once. But at the start of an act, it doesn't matter. I kind of got the idea from Worms, I think. I don't know if anyone ever... Worms Mass Destruction, whatever, the worm shooting video games. Me and my friends played so much of that over the pandemic, and we still do sometimes. But the fun thing about Worms is, like, you start off with a bunch of worms. You have the advantage of having a full team and more health and more things you can do. But as your worms die off, your turn order gets shorter, so it can actually be an advantage having 1 worm against 4, because now you can outmaneuver them. You just get the same turn over and over, and they're constantly swapping between the different ones. And boss fights in this game are kind of the same way of, like, they can dodge all of the incoming attacks if they have enough drive. They get to attack way more frequently. And so it kind of gets rid of that issue of, like, my terrifying dragon breathes fire and it misses, and now it's going to get wailed on for the next 30 minutes as, every single person takes their turn. Oh, what should I use? What should I, whatever. The action's always going. The only time where you're not doing anything is when you're out of drive, and that's only going to last maybe 15 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, by the time you're out of drive, how much longer is an active combat going to be? Not that long, probably. So, yeah. The combat system is crunchy. There's a lot of rolling dice. You see that more nowadays where people are moving away from like rolling damage, like you just roll to attack and then doing flat damage and stuff like that, or not rolling to attack but just rolling to dodge and things like that, which is cool. This isn't that. We like our crunch here. I think that's something I've kind of said before, and I'm going to keep saying. Like, I know Ghetto Rats is a crunchy system. I designed it that way on purpose because I like crunch. But I've also streamlined it as much as possible, so it's not a million obtuse little rules that you're always forgetting about. It's like the flow of combat, it's moving. It's always moving. There's always options. You have hundreds of little tiny choices you can make at any given moment. All of them matter, but it's intuitive, I think. It's not like it doesn't make any sense, or like, how come this action is a bonus action and this action is a regular action, and can I use my regular action and use it as a bonus action, or can I trade movement for... There's no little hiccups, really, that kind of limit what you want to do. You have a resource, a currency of stamina. You can spend it how you see fit, and the combat keeps going. And I've run some really fun combats. The one thing is combats in Ghetto Rats are pretty long. That was a fight between 3 people, 2 teams. It was a basic fight. It was pretty straightforward. It still took, I think, 30-ish minutes to run that. And now's where we're going to have a little pop-up. Because every time in these videos, I'm like, what was that, 20 minutes? It's a 47-minute video after editing. But yeah, combats are long. I like long combats. I wouldn't have designed the system this way if I didn't. If long, strategic, tactical, crunchy combats aren't your thing, then, you know, there's ways you can make the combat flow a little faster. I still think it flows pretty quickly compared to a lot of other crunchy games. Like I said, just because it's crunch doesn't mean it's not streamlined. It's still always moving. Your turn's always around the corner. There's always interesting choices and options you can take. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, I'll have combats last hours. And sometimes it's combats you don't think are going to last long. So just be selective if you're running the game about how and when and why you're introducing them. Yeah, you just have to be kind of intentional about how you run them. That's why I moved away from random encounter tables. You have a list of random encounter tables in the core book. In the expansion, I replace it with a system that's spending reputation. It's the same thing with heat actions, infamy actions, the hunt. All of them are, you know, and we'll get into those, but all of them are like currency-based spending to buy encounters and stuff like that. Not that you have to do that to introduce encounters and combats. You know, sometimes you just plan a combat. Sometimes it makes sense for a combat to happen. Sometimes characters are antagonizing NPCs and they're going to defend themselves. But yeah, just be intentional about when you're doing combats. Like, if you know you're running a big combat, know that it's going to take a while. And if you have a lot of things you want to get done in a session, sometimes there's a bunch of quests to do, a bunch of RP stuff, a bunch of shopping that doesn't involve big, glorious combats. And I've definitely had it before where I was like, I really had so many things I wanted to get to this session, and one throwaway random encounter wound up being half the session. So that's, I would just say it's one thing to be aware of. Players tend to like combat. I tend to enjoy combat quite a bit. But it's happened to me so many times where I'm like, all right, we're going to run this combat, then we're going to wrap up the session. It's like 9 p.m. when we start the combat, and then I usually don't drink until we're in combat, because it doesn't really I find it's really hard to run like the RP stuff and the missions and the quests and stuff like that intoxicated, but combat, it's like, it kind of plays itself. For me anyway, at this point I've played so many of them. But you know, you're having a couple beers, you know, you're into the combat, whatever, you check your phone and you're like, it's been 3 hours, how is it, it's midnight now, we're not even in the combat. So you know, leaving a combat, you know, halfway through a session, taking a photo, going home, waiting a week, coming back, finishing the combat, absolutely worth considering. I never do that because I'm not a great zone master, I guess. I always just go, you got work in the morning? All right, then you better kill that enemy. You want to go home and go to sleep? Then you got real incentive to beat that boss. But that's just because I'm a bad person. You don't have to do that. You can do better, okay? Do as I say, not as I do. I'm hungover. Don't listen to me. I was at the club all night. So yeah, anyway, that was combat. I hope that video made sense. I actually had fun shooting it. I'll probably do more, like once I get through the book, I'll probably do a few more videos of just like interesting combat scenarios to kind of explore different things more clearly. Like there's a lot of moving parts in the game that like we didn't even get into. Like, what does a combat look like with a wizard? What does a combat look like with twisters? How does it feel running a combat with like multiple, like way more people, way more gear? So I'll probably just do like scenario videos eventually of just like running different simulated combats, seeing how they play, seeing what we can learn and kind of take away from it. But for now, I think this was hopefully enough to give you kind of a clear idea. If you want to see all the different actions, you can get the book. Alternatively, on the website, you can just print these combat cheat sheets, and they have all the actions in the game, including the new ones from the expansion, like stealth mechanics and stuff. Oh yeah, there was one thing I wanted to include. In the rulebook, it brings up intermission actions, which are actions you can take in between acts of combat. I don't play with them anymore. They're listed as an optional rule in the book. It's really, really optional. I don't run it. I thought it was cool, and there were some cool options there, but it was just a little bit too much, I found. It took too long. That was the only one where it really took too long, and that's when you actually have to go in a circle with your whole table and be like, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Which the combat system otherwise is really good at avoiding that and just being like, okay, we're all huddled together, what's the right move, and everyone's debating and table talking, and that's awesome. It's less fun when you're looking through the list of actions, because inevitably what happens is everyone picks one action that they like, which was the breathe action plus one drive, and then every single person takes that action, and then every single NPC takes that action, and it's just like, why do we even have these? So there's certain things I still use it, like you can only flee during the intermission, you can only do a showdown during the intermission. If one person is like repairing a car while everybody else is, you know, in the middle of a combat, you might move that counter forward every intermission. You might roll to see if cops come during the intermission. You might roll to see if twisters show up during the intermission. Like, treat it as like a countdown, the passing of time between acts. But intermission actions themselves, I don't use anymore. I found it just slowed down play at the table. It was a cool idea, but in practice it didn't play as well as it seemed on paper. So that rule I put in the rule book that I wrote, ignore it. If you really want to play with it, go ahead. I mean, it's more options for your players, and if you're playing with a smaller group, it doesn't matter as much. You can also just say like, oh, NPCs don't get intermission actions, whatever, but I wouldn't bother. Keep flee and just kind of leave the rest. But yeah, hope this wasn't too incoherent. Hope this was enjoyable enough. Sorry about the audio quality. One of these days, I'm going to buy one of those shotgun mics you just attach to your phone. But those are like $120, and, you know, I'm not working right now. I'm clubbing. I'm clubbing and making YouTube videos, all right? So I'm not buying a mic right now. But yeah, take care. Stay safe. party responsibly. Thanks for watching.